Hey everybody, welcome to the VO Dojo 21 Questions. I'm Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California, and so excited and honored to welcome my friend and longtime voiceover colleague, Dave Fennoy, to join us here to answer some questions about him. And
Hey Tish, how you doing?
hey, hi, how are you?
Oh, real good, real good. Good to see you.
We've known each other for a really long time. It's really cool to be on the journey together.
There you go. There you go. Came to LA to do voiceover in 1990 and
Wow.
have been doing it here ever since.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's jump in with the questions. What's just to get started, what's your one word check-in for today?
And right now, my one word check-in is concerned, and this is living outside the world of just voiceover, but the world that we're in now. Uh, the challenge, the precipice that America is on. Are we going to continue with a democracy that, though not perfect, keeps striving to become that more perfect union? Or are we going the road of Hitler, which it seems that we are doing, um, where we are calling certain people names of animals? We are dehumanizing them so that those some people uh, can treat them other than humans should be treated. And we're seeing that happen now. Um, I think cruelty is the point in a lot of this. And I am so disheartened that so many Americans uh, are just fine with it. So, concern. And that may be a soft word for how I really feel.
Yeah, no, it's very, very intense times that we are all here. And I think as voiceover artists, we are here to put our voice in the world. And when we need to, how do we do that and how can we do it most impactfully?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, very, very with you on that. Let's go back to where things started. You said you moved to LA. You moved to LA in 1990. Where were you from originally?
Originally, was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio,
Mhm.
but I bounced around a number of places uh, when I left at 18. My parents, my senior year in high school, had moved to Washington, D.C. for my dad's job. I went off to college at
Mhm.
McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Mhm.
I was a theater major, but I was also playing music and I was playing the coffee shops in some colleges around the St. Paul area, um, participating in arty things, the theater department and the art department, um, and bounced around from there. Moved to Texas. I moved to Boston. I moved to DC, went back to school at university as a music major in the jazz program. Uh, Met a woman, fell in love, had a baby, and in 1980 moved to Northern California, and I changed my career to radio.
Mhm.
Started knocking on the door, and within a few years, I was a disc jockey in a major market. I was supposed to go to a small market first. Those are the rules.
Mhm.
I didn't know any better, and sometimes when we don't know any better, we break the rules, and it works. I ended up doing mornings at two of the R&B stations there, KSOL and KDIA, and that is where I discovered voiceover.
Mhm.
I was writing commercials, one of my very first jobs in radio. I was writing commercials and being the continuity director for KBLX, which is a quiet storm station. And the morning guy was leaving as I was arriving. And hey, man, what you doing? Where you going? And he said, "Oh, I'm going over to the city to do some voiceover." And the station was in Berkeley, the city, of course, San Francisco. And he said, "I'm going over to the city to do some voiceover. I make more money doing that than I do on the radio."
Mhm.
And a little light bulb went off.
Mhm.
And he gave me a 5-minute spiel about what you have to do. You got to get a demo made, and you could give your demo to an agent, and then the agent will send you auditions and book you on jobs. I was like, oh, okay, is that all I got to do?
That easy.
But I was at the beginning of my radio journey, so I didn't do anything about it for a couple of years, but it never went away.
Good, good, good. So you moved to LA in 1990 and you are here still, yeah?
Still here, still here.
Where do you live in?
Um, I was going to say, I never actually lived in LA.
Mhm, mhm.
I lived in Pasadena, Altadena, and now Glendale.
Excellent, excellent. Were you impacted by the fires in Glendale? Not so the smoke wise, but
Well,
maybe.
smoke-wise, my mother-in-law is with us now. She was living in Altadena,
Hmm.
and I had a house in Altadena for many years.
Hmm.
Her house was saved, but the house next door and many on her street burned to the ground. And the smoke, the lead, the damage from flames that didn't catch her house on fire, but did do some damage. Her hot tub was gone, her pool was destroyed. One side of the house needs a lot of work, and her roof needs a lot of work. So since the fire, she's been with us.
Hmm.
Um, and I had a house in Altadena for many years. I had sold it more than a dozen years ago.
Hmm.
It ain't there no more.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, when I first bought the house in 1993, 3 months later, uh, there was a fire in Altadena and all along the San Gabriel Mountains, and I believe in Malibu and Laguna Hills. It was a huge fire, much like these last fires we had. Uh, the house behind me burned to the ground. The one next to it burned to the ground, but my house was saved. But not this time.
Wow.
And not my house anymore, but
Yeah. But
warm
you know,
feelings about it. That's it's part of my history, so I'm still a little sad that it's gone.
yeah, it's a lot. There's been a lot going on to get through this year. It's really, really true. Where this could almost be where don't we know your voice from? Where would we know your voice from?
Well, not anymore, but I was the original voice of Hulu. So
Hmm.
you used to hear me before everything on Hulu. There've been a number of cartoons. Currently, I'm mostly known for video games,
Hmm.
which is interesting because video games weren't even a thing when I got into this business. But my career has been one of doing some of everything.
Hmm.
I was a voice for the Disney Channel uh, early on in my career, and I still do work for Disney in some of their cartoons
Hmm.
um, and narrations. I was doing promos for the WB, CNN, SoapNet, a bunch of other stations, NBC, ABC. Um, so you've heard my voice there. For many years, I've been one of the Lexus voices.
Hmm.
And that's been a wonderful gig for about 20 years.
I love that.
I am on between 500 and 600 video games.
Wow.
Um, so you hear me like, and it's interesting. I was just having this talk with my wife. Um, she took one of our cars into the shop. It happened to be a Lexus, and she was talking to the guy, and radio was on, and one of my commercials came up, and I never hear them. I never hear them. Um, but she often catches my voice. She was in Verizon one time and they were showing her the Google AI voices, and I'm one of those voices. And oh, that's my husband. And people, yeah, really? Yeah, okay, yeah, sure it is.
That's great. That's great. Do you have a favorite genre? Is there some place
You
where you're
know,
more
I
with or?
actually love doing it all. If
Hmm.
I were going to say a genre that I don't do a lot of and I'm not looking to do it, I'll give you a couple. One, medical narration. My father was a veterinarian. My sister's a doctor. I've got a niece that's a doctor, but ah,
Not for you.
It's too many crazy words. I will leave that to the people who enjoy it and audiobooks. I have tremendous respect for audiobook narrators, but I'm much more of a sprinter than a long
Uh-huh.
distance runner. And I was notorious for having said a few years ago, I've done 3 audiobooks. I hope to never do a fourth. I've ended up doing a couple. Well, they were projects that really interested me, a couple more.
Mhm.
Um, but not my bread and butter and not the thing I love to do most.
Yeah. I always use you as an example when I'm sharing the spirit of voiceover is the spirit of improv, and then like in theater, you might be like, oh, I had a 3-page monologue, and that was a fantastic thing. And in voiceover, like, how much can we get paid for saying the fewest words? And I always bring up Dave saying Hulu. There we go.
Oh, tremendous gig, but probably the best gig, the best uh, math on fewest words, most money. I was doing promos for ABC. This is back in the 90s. And I came in, they handed me the page, and I said, "Oh, it's one word." They said, "Yeah, say it. Next." And they put it on 25 spots of stuff I had already done. And a couple weeks later, had a check for 5 grand for one word.
Somebody's got to do
Yeah.
it. Back in the day, this is
Ah, back in the day, curling it.
in the day. So you moved in 1990, but you started voiceover in the Bay Area. So
I started in the Bay Area, but
how
I,
long
I
have you been
usually
doing
use 1990 as my start point because that's when I came to LA. I was a
it?
morning jock on a couple of stations down there, and I started um, doing, there was a company called Megaphone, and it was originally what they hired me for was to drive from Berkeley over to their studios in San Francisco on the nights that the lottery results came in, and I would be there for the lottery results, and then I would record a phone message of what the lottery numbers were so people could dial their 976 number.
Wow.
Who remembers 976 numbers? So I could record it and people could call up and find out that they did not win the lottery. Um, and then they had a couple other things. They had a Michael Jackson hotline and a Prince hotline, and I was the voice of the Michael Jackson and Prince hotline. And
Mhm.
they had a romance line. And I was telling these romantic stories that women would listen to. And at the end of the story, there was always lovemaking.
Uh-huh. So an auspicious start. Well, I always say there's lots of ways to make your living in voiceover, and erotica is one of them. So
It's one
that's
of them. That's
a
one of them.
thing. It's very much a thing. Who is your current team? And I'll let you
Well,
say what you
I
define.
my team is CESD
Hmm.
and Cope Management.
Hmm.
So those are the people who represent me and take care of me and make sure I get paid. And also SAG-AFTRA member. So
Hmm.
I would say that's my team.
And obviously, back in the day, we didn't need to have a setup, but what is your technical setup? What's your studio like?
Well, my Mac is the basis of my studio. Um, I use UA products. I have, and right now I'm using a Volt 1 and a Volt 2. I have a Volt 2 in my booth and a Volt 1 at my studio, and I used to use a UA quad. I know the UA, the twin is what most people are using, but what I have discovered is it's overkill.
Mm,
Just like Pro Tools is overkill for voiceover. I'm not saying don't use it. They're wonderful programs. The UA Twin and Quad are great, but for most of us, all we need is maybe a Volt 1 or a Volt 2,
Hmm.
or something like it.
Right.
They're making some very good products to interface between your computer and your microphone that don't cost $1,000. That will cost just a couple of $100. So
Hmm.
that's what I've been using the last few years. I use Twisted Wave as my DAW,
Hmm.
which is a program designed for voiceover actors. And if you're somebody that, you know, recording single tracks that you're sending, um, great. You don't need anything else.
Exactly.
You know, if you're trying to mix a bunch of things, add music, different voices, need different tracks, great. You've got, you know, Logic and Pro Tools and any number of other DAWs that work for that. But for generally, most voiceover actors uh, can use a much smaller system.
Yeah.
And I have a 5x7 whisper room that
Hmm.
I have had for many, many, many years.
Yeah. Well, you were doing promos early on, so well, did you go to places to do promos or
Well,
did
you
you
know,
kind of
early on in the early 90s, yes, I was definitely going to studios, and it could be any time of day. A lot of times
right, right.
you were showing up at the studio at 11 o'clock midnight because they had
Mhm.
something they wanted to get on first thing in the morning. Um, so, you know, you lived by the beeper or the cell phone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but we as promo voices were the first to start using ISDN, which
Mhm.
is now a dinosaur, uh,
Right.
now a dinosaur.
Mhm.
And it was a digital phone line that went both ways. You could send and you were receiving, so they could hear you and record on that side, and you could hear them uh, uh, give you
It's
direction on
source,
this side.
source connect with with copper wires is what it was.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. Source Connect now does that over the internet. Yeah.
And it was first being used by those of us who did TV promos.
Hmm.
So, and it became golden handcuffs because you don't know when the station or cable outfit is going to call and need you. So you had to stay close to the house.
Right, right, right.
Um, but it's still, if you're under contract doing promos, that's good duty.
Mhm. We got a little bit about your origin story. So you started in music. I think that's really powerful. And then I know one of the things that you do for the community is your backyard jazz. Are you still doing the backyard jazz?
We did one last September. We haven't done one since we were about to do some remodeling of the house. We were going to be staying at my mother-in-law's house,
Mm.
and then the fires happened.
Right,
So
right, right. The,
we've kind of been up in the air. We will get back to it at some point. For several years, we were able to do 2 or 3 shows a year. Um, the pandemic kind of ended that. We got started again after the pandemic, and then some other things happened, fires and so forth.
Here's a question that kind of goes to your origin. How do you say your music has informed your voiceover? I think I'm a trained opera singer. I think it was a huge foundation in my success in the voiceover career. How do
I
you
think
get music?
timing, rhythm, phrasing, all those things as a musician, as a singer. I used to be a singer. I think video games has stolen my singing voice away. Um, but you get that sense of rhythm, of how to say things. Um, and also just the fact of performing. I think a lot of people they don't really know how to perform because they've never done it.
Hmm.
They're showing up and being themselves. But I was also a child actor as a kid. It's a
Interesting.
place.
Say more about that.
Or I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and my parents wanted to introduce me to a variety of things. And I tended to do well in sports and artistic things. And at 𝗧𝗺𝗺 House, you could take music, modern dance, painting, sculpture, uh, and theater. And I participated in all those things. Also, music. I was playing trumpet when I was a kid, and then switched over to the guitar. But I was in a number of plays as a child at 𝗧𝗺𝗺 House, so I had the acting bug already. My parents sent me to a private boys' school, uh, at Hawkins School for Boys, and in my junior and senior year, I was president of the Players Society,
Mhm.
and directed some plays, acted in some plays, and actually went off to college as a theater major. I was still playing music, but yeah.
Mhm.
So I had a background in theater. I had a background in acting already, and I think that has helped me a lot.
Mhm.
People who want to come into voiceover often are thinking about, oh, I can do promos and make a lot of money, or I love playing video games. I'd like to be one of those voices that
Mhm.
does it. And they're knocking on the door often, uh, without a background, a foundation. And I know in my teaching, what I try to give is an acting foundation,
Mhm.
um, and let you find who you are, to say what it has to be said, making somebody else's words your own,
Right. Right.
translating the written word into the spoken word.
Right. And then finding that balance between what's authentically you and then
Yes,
having the confidence and clarity and ease and joy in the performance part of sharing that, right? Because
absolutely.
sometimes we know who we are, but oh goodness, there's all sorts of stuff that comes up. We
It's
don't know.
interesting because sometimes we give that message, you got to be you, got to be you, got to be you, and you do.
Mhm.
But then somebody throws a game character, a cartoon character at you, where it really is not you. And you really must take on another persona.
Mhm.
And that's a whole other level of talent and skill.
Right. One of the reasons I love doing this, having this time with people who come to join me to answer questions on Ask the Sensei later, is that we get to ask questions about, find out about you. And one of the things about asking people about sharing their origin stories is everyone has a different origin story, allowing people to realize, hey, you're living your origin story right now if you're starting out.
Yeah.
What was your journey once you arrived in LA? You had the words in your words or the ideas in your mind. You made a segue from
Well,
radio.
let me start. I was taking classes up north,
Okay. You
at
trained.
Voice Track San Francisco.
Awesome. Hmm.
And a friend of mine up there he had and I had started voiceover about the same time, and suddenly he was booking at least every month, where I was only booking every 3 months then. And
Hmm.
so, what'd you do? And he didn't want to tell me, but he finally did. He was taking classes at Voice Tracks West, so I decided to take some classes and did. And I took a weekend workshop. Um, and an agent from LA came up, Lee Gilbert, and
Oh,
taught the
maybe.
class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the class, she said, you know, you're pretty talented. If you ever decide to come to LA, we'd love to represent you. And I was morning jock on KSOL, number one station in town at the time. Well, number one, number two, depending on what time of the year and what the book said. So I said, well, as soon as I'm making as much money in voiceover as I am on the radio, I'll make the switch. We make plans, God laughs. 3 months after I met Lee Gilbert, and she had given me her card and informed me that, well, we'd love to represent you if you ever move to LA. The radio station fired the whole air staff. I got off
Oh.
the air for, 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh, yeah, the general manager wants to see you. And so, bye. And you know what? I never thanked them. So I found Lee Gilbert's card, called her up and said, "Were you serious?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "But I want you to put together a new demo." So I put together a new demo. That took me a month or so. Um, and late March, early April, I believe it was, I started commuting down to LA from San Francisco. I would drive down on Sunday night or Monday morning. I spent a month with a buddy of mine from high school who was doing sound effects for soap operas at CBS. His brother was also living in town, and he was the cartoon director of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not the voice director, but of the artwork.
Cool.
We had been great friends in high school. I just happened to find them. Uh, and so he helped me out. I did a little demo, and he helped me out get that demo around. But I was driving down. I stayed for a month with Tom Kafka, Tom and John Kafka. I stayed for a month with Tom. Then I stayed for a month with an uncle and aunt of mine. Then I got an apartment with another guy from uh, uh, Joe Paulino from San Francisco was trying to do the same thing. And after about 9 months, 10 months of that, um, I was able to buy a little house in Pasadena. It was $150,000.
Oh, wow.
1991.
Oh, wow.
And but I would drive down, uh, like I said, Sunday nights or Monday morning, drive back Friday nights or Saturday morning. And I did that for 9 months.
Wow.
I had a little Toyota MR2, put a lot of miles on it, got two or three tickets over that year. Uh, and I tell that story because people need to understand if you want something different, you got to do something different. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Hmm.
Uh, and people told me I was nuts. And maybe I was, but it worked.
Seem to work out. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's and so those 9 months of transit. So Lee was at William Morris. Is that where you
No,
started?
she was at SBV, Sutton Barth and
Or
Venari. That was my
SPV.
first
Okay, right,
agent.
right. Yeah, yeah. I met her when she was at William Morris. Yeah. Um, wow. So you were SBV from the beginning.
There was a point where I decided I was going to leave Sutton Barth and Venari. I'd had a great contract with the WB, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now the CW.
Mhm.
I was doing promos for them, and contract didn't get renewed, but the person who replaced me was also from Sutton Barth and Venari, and in my mind, it was like, well, they should have fought for me, but they were going to get that money anyway, so they just
Mhm.
and I don't know that was the case now. That was how I felt then. So I decided to leave, and I went to Tisherman.
Okay.
And I went to Tisherman because uh, that was the agency for big, deep voice promo guys. Don
Okay.
LaFontaine was a good friend of mine.
Hmm.
Uh, and I spent 5 years there. And I'm just going to say, much as I love Steve Tisherman and the people that were there, it was a mistake for me.
Hmm.
Um, because I was looking at one thing that I do, which is promos. Um, in the 5 years that I was there, I got a few animation auditions, a few video game things. Uh, but I finally left and went to CESD where I am now, which is, um, and I can't speak for Tisherman TGMD now, but at that time, it was mostly commercials and promos. When I got to CESD, full agency, every aspect of voiceover they were covering. I booked more cartoons and video games the first year I was there than I had auditioned for in the 5 years that I was at Tisherman.
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I think now more than ever, I think now more than ever, really having an approach of diversifying your portfolio. Um,
Oh, you said the diversity word.
yeah,
Out, Trump's gonna get you.
Bring it. Well, and then that brings up another interesting question. We're riffing a little here from the 21, but they'll count. How do you find, as an African American voice, and over the course of the years, like how have you found diversity? So much.
I've had pluses and minuses. There've been a few gigs. I remember once I auditioned to play Spider-Man for some cartoon, and I got a call back. And I could tell when I walked in the room, they didn't know who I was then. I'm much better known now. People know who I am now, but I was fairly new in the business then. And when I walked in the room, I could see the looks on their faces like, we didn't know he was black. They didn't say that, but when you're black, we see it. We
Yeah.
see it. Um, and I did my audition, but didn't get that job. I'd been doing some work for ABC, and it was the 50th birthday Lee. And because I'd been working for them, uh, they put me on the promos for it. And they were great promos, if I do say so myself. And they ran for a few days, and then I got a call from the producer, and he's like, "Oh, man, I'm so sorry to tell you, but they've replaced you." And I said, "Replace me? Why?" He says, "Well, one of the suits heard it. He asked who you were. I mentioned you were black." He goes, "Oh, no, we can't have a black guy doing the Muhammad Ali thing. Then the audience will think it's just for black people." And and this was a person that he felt bad that this happened. He was on my side. So I said, "So I can't do that because he's black." Then, well, I'll tell you what, put me on some of the general market things. And he goes, "Oh, well, you're black. We can't put you on the general market thing." And I said, "So you're telling me if it's a black thing, I can't be on it because I'm black, and if it's a general market thing, I can't be on it because I'm black. You're trying to tell me I can't work." And he didn't realize what he had said and what the math was to what he said, what the outcome was. And it kind of stunned him, and did a lot of work for ABC for a while after that.
Interesting.
Uh, so I've had some of those interactions, um, but I've always been somebody that growing up in a black neighborhood, even because my mother was a school teacher, my father was a doctor, and they insisted on my learning to speak American English.
Mhm.
I often got in my neighborhood back then, "Why you talk like a white boy?"
Mhm.
And my feeling has always been American language does not belong to one particular group. This is the language that we all speak, and we also learn to code switch.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think everybody does. It's probably more. Uh, you can see it more with those of us who are black, um, because the rhythm of how we speak with each other is typically a little different than how
Mhm.
we speak during business. I do general market work. I do work that is aimed at the black community as well.
Do you feel that it's a different landscape? I mean,
It's a very different landscape now.
obviously we were just talking about how the landscape is changing,
Yeah.
but in general,
In general, we can look at when I was doing promos in the 90s, 11% of work went to women. It's about 50-50 now, and women may actually be doing a little more,
Mhm.
especially when you look through all the cable stations and whatnot. Uh, so that has been a big change. I remember hearing people say nobody wants to hear a woman's voice.
I
You
remember
know,
too, I was starting back then too. So,
we weren't hearing then, and still not now, women's voices on movie trailers. That is
mhm.
the area women have to crack. There's been a few, but that market hasn't really been cracked. But by the same token, we're not hearing as many voices on movie
Exactly.
trailers at all now.
That's okay. So yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but we've come a long way. What the American voice is is very different now. It
Mm-hmm.
includes everybody and not just American voices. There are voices we're hearing from India, from the UK, from Australia, from Spanish-speaking countries uh, that fall into the American voice because that's who we are, and that's really as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And even the diversity of accents across the country. From, that East Coast to Southeastern to Midwest to Southwest to California. Uh, all those are American voices, and we're hearing a much wider variety of all of us now, which is a good thing. Uh, Everything's not perfect, but it's better. Uh,
Right.
we we do have an administration and a group of people that are trying to turn the clock back, uh, which is why my concern was the word.
Mhm.
But we are in a better place, and if we can just get past uh, the orange Hitler, we'll be okay.
Yeah. Do you think of any moment as a big break? Do you believe in big breaks? Say
You
there's
know,
a defining
I
moment.
believe in numerous breaks. I believe there are times, taking that class um, and meeting Lee Gilbert was a big
Hmm.
break.
That's a big break. Yep.
That
Hmm.
was a big break. I was asked to, hey, if you move here, we'd love to represent you.
Hmm.
I became one of the Disney Channel voices, one of the voices of the WB. I was doing daytime promos for CBS, occasionally NBC. I've done work for CNN, all these things in the 90s that I was doing, that the bulk of my work was TV promos.
Hmm.
And although I'm not under contract to anybody right now, I still do a fair amount of TV promos. So I think that was the big break, was
Hmm.
getting representation.
Right. How long is it from starting in VO to making your full-time living in VO? I know it was
Uh,
a little bit different back then because you could hit something and be like, all right, I'm set. But it's a little bit.
well, I had a little hitch. I came in 90. At the end of 90, there was we had a recession.
Mhm.
And I was doing promos. I became a voice of one of the Disney Channel voices. I was doing uh, promos for CBS for daytime. Um, and I had some other things going, some commercials and whatnot going up. But then, end of 90, um, things fell apart. The cartoons had ended. I was manager of New Kids on the Block, Dick Scott on the New Kids on the Block cartoon. And I was doing character work on a lot of other cartoons. But when the steady cartoon work for me went away, uh,
Mhm.
then uh, uh, I was pro stars. I played Bill Jackson. I thought great cartoons, but they only ran like 13 or 24 episodes, and then they were done. Um, so I had to do something because my income had suddenly dropped. And I
Mhm.
went back on the radio for a couple of years. I got a job filling in at KACE, and the program director there uh, hired me. And when he went to a jazz station, Lawrence Tanter is his name. He went to a jazz station, Jazz FM, and he brought me along to do morning. So from about uh, middle of 91 until it's in 2003. So at some point, I was a morning jock
Mhm.
on Jazz FM, and I was still doing work, and work was coming in for voiceover. So I was doing real well, bought a house and all those kinds of things. Um, so since then, um, I left radio um, in 94 for the last time. And since 94, it's been nothing but voiceover.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that when we start, things start taking off, but then you always have to be prepared that anything can happen, and that's why we diversify our
Well, a
portfolio.
lot of times we feel like it's going to be this, but it's more like this.
Yeah, yeah, like woo,
There's
whoop,
going to be some
whoop.
ups and downs. I always tell people, uh, be glad for the good things. Those knockoffs of one commercial that pays you a bunch is great, but save you money.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Um, what would you say are the top three ingredients in your success?
Perseverance, talent, and skill.
Hmm.
And I think you need all three. I'm not going to say I'm the most perseverant person, but I'm pretty perseverant. I don't know that I'm the most talented person, but I have great belief in my talent. And I have skills that I have developed
Hmm.
that serve me. And th that is what you must do.
Yes, yes, and those are ingredients in a sustained, successful career. Yeah. Good, good, good. What are you proudest of in your voiceover career?
Some of the things I'm proudest of are not the things that made me the most money. For 15 years, I was the voice of the NAACP Image Awards.
Hmm.
Um, that was very, very, very proud work for me. So I got to introduce, my voice got to introduce the Obamas while they were in the White House for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony.
Wow, that's cool.
Um, those kind of things
Yeah.
just warm my heart.
Hmm.
I like the fact that in some ways you're a part of history, a part of recognizing with the NAACP image or recognizing my Black community.
Hmm.
And when I say that, I want people to understand, you um, are a white woman, but there's a woman's community. There's a
Hmm.
community of women of a certain age. So there's a Black community, there's the larger community, and we are often members of numerous communities.
Hmm.
And that is one of the interesting things about diversity is you don't have to just be involved in one thing. Um, I truly, truly, truly uh, am an American. I love my country. I love it enough that I want to see it better. Um, but I know my perspective is going to be different than a lot of people. Them live to leave. You like it. In America, you got to live to leave it.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Now, you just mentioned of a certain age. I think one of the other powerful things about knowing you for so long, and then what's your take on being a voiceover of a certain age? I think one of the
Well,
beauty,
they're still hiring me, so it's okay.
but yeah, like and like I think one of the beauties of this is that you can be very young and do this, and you can be very, very old and do this. But what's your
Well,
what's
I view myself as an actor, and I'll say a voice actor, and I use voice actor as opposed to I do voiceover. I mean, I do
Mhm.
voiceover,
Right,
but
right, right.
how I view myself as voice actor. Um, and when you look at career of actors, we have actors that started as children and continue working until they're gone.
Hmm.
Uh, that is my plan.
Yeah,
As long as they will hire me, as long as I can do this, I'm going to do it. I love doing this. And what's the old saying? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. It's a
right, right,
lie. It's a lie. You will work.
right. You must work. Yes, yes, yes. And you can.
Some of the things that are work are, paperwork and
Right, 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 right.
demos together and putting together, but it's all part of what you got to do.
Yeah. Um, what's your biggest fear or challenge in voiceover?
Mm, um, probably losing my voice. That would be, and it's not a big fear,
Right.
actually. I think we all who are performers have a fear that maybe one day we won't be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that occasionally I think about, but I feel very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes as a man thinketh, so is he, or when I say man, could be man or woman. Um, as a man thinketh, so is he. So because I believe I'm relevant, I'm relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love how as you describe your journey that you've become more relevant and more well known and more like the journey has grown, increased that. Yeah. Um, let's see. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm a little of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, as a young, as a kid, I was kind of shy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think some of that shyness is still there. And yet, because I've introduced major artists on stage as a disc jockey, been morning guy, getting everybody up and on their way and playing their favorite tunes and telling them jokes and so forth and so on the radio. Um, I have a I've learned to step out and be the MC. I've learned to step out and talk to large crowds. I'm probably better at that than I am uh, in one-on-one situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of the extrovert who can talk to a lot of people, a little bit of the introvert that I'm not as likely to reveal as much about myself when I'm just talking to a single person that I haven't met before. Um, kind of, well, how much do I say? Why are they asking me that question? So forth. Now,
Right. Well, you seem to be doing okay here.
yeah.
Seems pretty good.
And when I tell people, I'm really kind of shy, they go, yeah, right. Maybe I'm not as shy as I think I am.
What would you say your VO motto is?
Oh, wow. Um, my VO motto. That's a good one. There are a million things I say when I'm teaching.
Hmm.
I'm going to say one now. Uh, Voiceover is translating the written word into the spoken word. They are not the same thing.
Hmm.
Too often we are trying to honor the words of the writer. And of course, we want good words from the writer, good sentences, so forth and so on. But the writer can only take us so far. The language can be ever so beautiful. But what the writer is trying to do is give the best semblance of the human experience that they can. So
Hmm.
it's up to we humans to take those words off the page and touch people's heads and hearts.
Hmm. Very good, very good. We have a variation of that theme at the dojo is voiceover is communication. Communication is an exchange of vibrational energy, and that is how we connect. So
Yeah.
yeah, very much on the same vibrational plane there. That's good. Um, and two more questions. What is a typical, I know, I think like I don't think there is a typical voiceover day. So, but how what is I guess you could say what is your daily practice or how do you approach your day?
It'd be wonderful if it was just job after job after job after job.
Hmm.
Um, but I think our real work is auditioning.
Hmm.
So much of my day is built around auditioning. I keep notes on, oh, what's due today and at what time, and tomorrow and at what time, and uh, taking a look at, is this something I really want to audition for? Is this right for me? And spending enough time, not an inordinate amount of time and not too many takes, uh, but spend enough time understanding what it is they're asking for, also trusting my instincts when I don't think what they're asking for is what they're asking for, because we've all been in that position where we gave them exactly what they wanted, and then you heard it 3 weeks later and it was diametrically opposed to what they said they wanted.
Right.
So we have to learn to trust our instinct. We got to pay attention to it, but learn
Hmm.
to trust our instincts. Auditioning, got to handle paperwork. There's always contracts, and these days, uh, non-disclosure
Yeah.
agreements that
Always.
have to
Yep.
be signed. Um, so you do have those things, um, and trying to stay healthy, walking, doing some exercise. Um, from time to time, you have communications with managers, agents that have to be had. I think often people, oh, I want to get an agent, I want to get an agent, they get an agent, oh, I don't want to bother them. And then, of course, there's the other side, oh, I need to talk to my agent every day because I want these things and they aren't happening and blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be either of those
Right.
people, but from time to time, you need to have a conversation and say, look, if you want to go in a particular direction and it's not happening, talk to your agent, talk to your manager,
Hmm.
tell them what they want. They're not mind readers.
Yeah. The
Um,
relationships, yeah.
so auditioning, working, um, trying to stay healthy. That's how my day is spent, and don't usually have to get up too early. I'm more of a night person than a day person. Um, and I also have to put together my Ask Dave Fennoy Anything uh,
Hmm.
promo and keep that going and invite different guests and uh, you know.
How has the video game strike impacted your work?
This has been a long strike.
Hmm.
It has impacted me, but perhaps not as much as some others.
Hmm.
I have continued to work in video games. Why? Because there are a number of companies that have signed the interim agreement and the AI writer.
Great. Hmm.
And that has been a boon to those of us in that do a lot of video games. I may be more fortunate than some others who, uh, because there are fewer games that have signed than not
Right.
signed.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what everybody else's situation is. I do imagine that there are many others that aren't as fortunate, who that aren't being able to work on games, who have signed the interim agreement. But it's been okay for me. It's a little less, but still okay.
Good. 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 Well, hopefully it's all coming.
Yeah. Plus, I do commercials and narration and
Exactly. Going back to the
TV promos.
diversification. Always have another thing because who
Yeah.
knows what's going to, yeah. And last question. Knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Save your money. Trust the process. There have been times uh, when there's been a downturn and I didn't necessarily trust the process. A number of years ago, oh, gee, I need to do something else, voiceovers. And it was in another, 2008. I was in another recession and things just weren't going. And you start looking for other things. Um, and truly, what I needed to do and ultimately did was double down and do the things that I did when I started my career.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can get to the point, oh, you're working a lot, you're well known in the business, and you just
Mhm.
think everything is going to continue to come. Um, Especially those of us who do commercials, advertise. You still have to advertise. You still have to know, let the industry know that you are there and what you can do.
Mhm.
So your demos have to be right. You have to be connecting with people. It's a lot easier when you're working. In so many ways, it almost happens for you.
Right.
But when it dips, you still need to spend the same amount of time on your career. Just now, since you're not working as much, promote more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always be looking for work.
Yeah.
Always be looking for work.
That's a great way to bring this around. And Dave, thanks so much for sharing your insights and being here and taking time to share. And look forward to having you on as Sensei. And then I think I'm looking forward to coming to answer questions with you
There
soon.
you go. There you go. Absolutely. It is a pleasure having seen you in a good long time. And I know you've been through some things, and
Yeah,
I'm happy that you're on the other side of those things.
me too. Me too. Yay. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. All the best.